Mayor Tubbs, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Really, for those viewers who don't know you and your story, I think when reading your list of achievements, they'll come to understand why somebody's making a documentary about your life. I just want to read some of these things here that are so impressive. Since you have been mayor, Stockton has seen a 40% reduction in homicides, the implementation of the first citywide scholarship program offered to all graduating high school students, the implementation of the first guaranteed income program. Stockton went from filing for bankruptcy in 2012 to becoming the second most fiscally healthy city in the state of California. Stockton was named an All-American City by the National Civic League, and on top of that, Stockton has led California in 2019 in the decline of officer-involved shootings. So clearly you have a handbook on how to fix America and you're not sharing it with anyone. You're a 29-year-old mayor. I mean, that's record-breaking. What are you doing differently in your opinion?
Yeah, well, first I would have to say I have a great team. So I think part of the secret sauce is not trying to fix everything, but listening to experts and listening to some of the people who came before in terms of the things that are working. But in terms of the new things we're doing, a lot of it has been motivated by the fact that I think government at its best is to invest in people. It's the wisest investment we can make. Government is nothing but the people, the citizens who make it what it is. So prioritizing the needs of all of our residents, but also not being afraid to talk about equity, about the need to do more oftentimes for people that have done more, have had more done against them. And sometimes it's controversial, but it is yielding the results that we like to see in terms of a safer community, a more fiscally healthy community, and a community that people are looking to for solutions instead of problems.
Let's talk a little bit about your relationship with the police chief. America has been through a period now of a few weeks or months, really, where police brutality has come to the fore. Stockton also has a story, has a history with how the police engage with the community. You have now been instrumental in working with your team to reduce police shootings and police violence towards the community by a huge amount. What did you find actually yields results between a community and its police?
Yeah, well, part of it is policy changes. So having rules on the book that make it illegal and punishable to use force excessively, and part of it is also ongoing training. And our police chief, he's been really great since 2014 in bringing us through this truth and reconciliation process, where our police chief, our police officers are in conversations with community members, many of whom have been impacted by police violence. And the fact that every single officer of ours goes training, not once, not twice, but continuously. I mean, we have a police chief who goes to black churches and says, I want to start by saying that I understand policing in America started with slave patrols. And that's an ugly racist history that
Wow.
every day with this bad, exactly powerful. And I think that's led the community to trust more, but that doesn't mean we're out the woods yet. I will tell you we have a lot more work to do. And I think particularly if you look at the reduction in police shootings, part of it's significant because the number was so high before, and that there was a real issue. And so we're creating a new baseline, but always seeking to improve and get better. And also now having a conversation like many other cities around how we don't want cops responding to homelessness. We don't want cops responding to poverty. We don't want cops responding to mental health. And that we have to create new cast of characters and first responders who are more responsive to those needs. So we don't have police officers being social workers or homeless navigators.
Let's talk a little bit about the program that arguably, blew your name up all over America, and that was the Guaranteed Income Program. That was the first time I heard of your name. They said, man, there's this young mayor who's out of California, and his plan is to give people, just to give them $500 a month. And that's it. No strings attached. Just here's your $500. And immediately, obviously, there was backlash. People saying like, oh, so this is what America's turning into. We just give people free money now. Are they blackmailing us? We give them money to not commit crime. But you saw this in a really different light. You said the reason you need to do this is for everyone's gain, and that's what you've been doing. Tell me what you've learned from the program so far of giving people guaranteed income.
Trevor, what I've learned from that is that number one, a lot of the tropes that even I had about the economy just aren't really true. The first one being that if people work that enough, and we've seen it particularly now during COVID-19, but even before, that people are working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and still can't pay for necessities. And then the second thing I learned is that you can trust people, and that in society we have examples of people that we trust. We trust billionaires and corporations. Every time there's time for a bailout, we just give them money. We bail out industries. We give tax breaks, and implicitly we're saying we trust those individuals to make good decisions with the money. And what I found in doing this pilot in Stockton is that you can trust regular people like you and me with money as well. That folks spend money how people spend money because they're people. So in Stockton, we found that the money is spent on food, on utilities, or on taking time off of work when you're sick, or of taking time off of work to interview for other jobs. And then the last thing I've learned from idea, part of the issue with our economy is that we attach dignity to work. Everyone talks about the dignity of work, but I don't think there's anything dignified about working yourself to death to pay for necessities. And what I think we need to get to as a society is really the dignity of humanity, like human dignity, that our dignity happens before we get to work. So then when we go to work, we have dignified protections like unions, like paid time off, like family leave, and like wages that pay. The fact that people make more unemployed than employed suggests a problem with how we're paying wages and how we're valuing the quote unquote dignity that comes from work.
The one question I would love to know the answer to is, how did you convince your detractors? How did you convince them that the city giving people money would actually benefit everybody?
Well, in our case, we were lucky for the initial pilots to use sort of private-public partnerships. So to really prove the concept with saying, "Hey, this is money from philanthropy." But even then, there's still been a lot of backlash and detractors. And what we've been saying is that the community is all of us, universal as you and I, and we all truly do better when we do better. And I talk about my personal experience. I talk about how my mother had me as a teenager, how my father is still incarcerated, and how all the tropes I hear about people who are incarcerated or even people who are poor just aren't true to my experience and the experience of the people in your community. And it's a lot of conversations, a lot of relationship building, and we're still not all the way there yet. But I also think that if we wait to get complete agreement on everything, we'll never move forward. So if it's right and it's beneficial for the people, we just have to move forward with it.
Well, I'll tell you this, man, Tubbs. At 29 years old, you've already shifted, a city in a giant way. You started to shift America, and I can't wait to see what you're doing at 39 years old. Thank you so much for the time, man.
Well, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you.